In this session, we will continue our revision uh, of crop production and management. We'll complete that revision of that chapter, and then we will continue our revision of next chapter, metals and non-metals. Uh, so children, let's continue our revision. That is, we will continue from about weeds. What are weeds? Weeds are undesirable plants that grow naturally along with the crops are called weeds. So you should know what are weeds or undesirable plants. And the process of removal of weeds is called as weeding. And this why weeding is necessary, because weeds it compete with the crops for space, light, water and nutrients. So if weeds grow along with the crops, crop will not get enough nutrient, light, water, space that are necessary for their growth. So we have to remove weeds. And how do farmers remove weeds? Farmers remove weeds mainly by removing manually by using the agricultural implement called kurpi. Very, very important. Weeds are removed manually by agricultural implement called kurpi, and it also removed by spraying chemicals called weedicides. Got it? Name the agricultural implement used for weeding. You will write. You will pick the answer kurpi, and give one example for weedicide. 2,4-D. Very, very important. 2,4-D is the name of the chemicals, that is weedicide. What are weedicides? Chemicals used to control weeds are called weedicide. Example 2,4-D. And this weedicide, if it is sprayed, it will not affect the crops. And some child got a doubt, if weeds are sprayed, what about the microorganisms and earthworm present in the soil? As I told, weedicides will be sprayed on the crops, and so this earthworms and microorganisms, they are present inside the soil, isn't it? So it will not affect them, it will not kill those earthworms and microorganisms. And then next step is harvesting. So cutting of crop after it mature is called as harvesting, isn't it? After the crop is fully mature, cutting cutting of crop is called as harvesting. So you should know the agricultural implement used for harvesting. So agricultural implement used for harvesting is sickle, that and by a machine called as harvester. So either by traditional implement called sickle, or by machine called harvester. And then after the crops are harvested, next process is threshing. Threshing is removal of grains from the chaff in the harvested crop is called as threshing. And then once the grains are removed from the harvested crop, then the grains and chaff to be separated. So children, the process of separation of grains and chaff is called as winnowing. Winnowing is done by winnowing machine. So you should know till now various agricultural implements which are used in various agricultural processes. So in this lesson, you should know what is that process and different agricultural implements used for that particular process. And then after this done, next step is storage. Then once these grains are dried in a sunlight, it should be stored properly. It is stored in jute bags or metallic bins, and in large scale storage of grains is done in silos and granaries in order to protect them from pests like rats and insects. So children, in this chapter, all the processes with various agricultural implements you should keep in mind, as well as you have to identify the agricultural implement, as well as the labeling of agricultural implement, like whatever it is given in your textbook, like plow and hoe. These two diagrams are very, very important. And now next to continue our chapter, metals and non-metals. And in metals and non-metals, first let us discuss about that physical property. So here in this revision session, just we will revise only the concept. So if you know the concept here anyway for online exam, you should know the concept. So you have to click the correct answer. This all questions are in the form of MCQ type, isn't it? So you should know the concept very well. Coming to physical properties, state. If you compare metals exist in mainly generally exist in solid state, and non-metals they exist in all the three states: solid, liquid, as well as gaseous state. Then next physical property is luster. Luster means shyness. Metals generally they have shine, isn't it? So they have luster. Non-metals, they are very dull. They do not have luster. Then coming to malleability and conductility. What is malleability? The property of metal by which it can be beaten into sheets. You can have that aluminium foil, aluminium sheet, iron sheet, etc. by which we can use it different ways, isn't it? So that is called as malleability. And what is ductility? The property of metals by which it can be drawn into wires is called as ductility. We can have copper wire, aluminium wire, etc. Isn't it? But what about non-metals? Non-metals, they do not have the property of malleability and ductility. Then coming to hardness, metals generally they are very hard, strong. They cannot cut into pieces easily. Isn't it? On the other, only one exception, metal sodium is very soft. It can be easily cut by knife. Isn't it? And non-metals, usually they are very brittle. They are not strong. Then conductivity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Conductivity applied to thermal conductivity as well as electrical conductivity. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, whereas non-metals are poor conductor, or you can tell bad conductors of heat and electricity. Then coming to sonoricity, there's metals, they have their, they can produce a characteristic ringing sound. This property of metals is called as sonorous, or the property is called as sonoricity. That is why metals, bells you can see in temples, etc. And if you drop any metal coin or this metal rod, it produces ringing sound. So this ringing sound, what do you call that as? Sonoricity. But what about non-metals? They do not have this property of sonoricity. Next, coming to chemical properties of metals and non-metals. So here mainly you should know when metals reacts with oxygen, what will happen. Non-metals, so here we are going to revise about reaction of metals and non-metals with oxygen, water, acid and bases. So metals reacts with oxygen, it form basic metal oxide, or you can tell nature of metal oxides are basic in nature. It is bases. And the same way non-metal when reacts with oxygen, it form acidic metal oxide, or you can tell metal oxide, non-metal oxide or acidic in nature. Very, very important. Be clear. Oxides of metals are basic in nature and oxides of non-metals are acidic in nature. The same way when metals reacts with water, it forms basic metal oxide with the evolution of heat. And again, whenever metals reacts with water, again it forms basic metal oxide along with the heat, evolution of heat. But non-metals, they do not generally react with water. And by seeing this, see, you can see the rusting of iron. Iron is a metal. When it reacts with moist air in presence, that is air, it reacts with air, that is oxygen. In presence of water, it forms rust, that is nothing but iron oxide, metal oxide, iron oxide. Isn't it? Iron is a metal. When it reacts with oxygen, that oxide of that metal is formed, metal oxide. Name the metal oxide present here, iron oxide. So iron oxide or metal oxide are basic in nature. And then the same way copper, when it reacts with water, carbon dioxide and oxygen, you can get copper hydroxide and copper carbonate. isn't it? So this green coating, you can see that green coating which are present on the surface of the copper vessel is called as what is the name the mixture? Copper hydroxide and copper carbonate. Very very important. Copper hydroxide and copper carbonate, they are basic in nature because copper is a metal. Metal oxides are basic in nature. Then the same way, if you see here, reaction of non-metals with oxygen. Sulfur is a non-metal. When non-metal reacts with oxygen, oxides of non-metal will be formed. Non-metal oxide, sulfur dioxide. When sulfur dioxide dissolve in water, you get sulfuric acid. Isn't it? Sulfuric acid. So by the name itself, you can understand oxides of non-metal is acidic in nature, sulfuric acid, isn't it? And so here children, you can know that sodium is a metal. When it reacts with water, you give sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. So whenever metals reacts with water, it releases hydrogen gas. Got it? So metal hydroxide, that is basic in nature, and it releases hydrogen gas. So first we have learnt about reaction of metals and non-metals with oxygen. Now reaction of metals and non-metals with water. So when metals reacts with water, metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas will be released. And the same way, reaction of non-metal with water. Non-metal do not react with water. There will be no reaction. So example, sulfur plus water. Sulfur is a non-metal, so no reaction. So in exam, if it comes in fill in the blanks, you have to metals when reacts with water, it releases dash. What it will release hydrogen gas, isn't it? And it forms metal hydroxide. And the same way, what will happen when non-metals reacts with water? There will be no reaction. Here, so why is sodium kept in kerosene? As the sodium is a very reactive metal, it reacts vigorously with water. When it reacts vigorously with water, it catches fire, isn't it? So in order to prevent that, sodium is preserved under kerosene. Very very important. Where is sodium preserved? Under kerosene. The same way as non-metals, we have seen it do not react with water, but some non-metals are very reactive. Example, phosphorus. As phosphorus is very reactive, if it exposed to air, it catches fire. So to prevent the contact of phosphorus with atmospheric oxygen, it is stored in water. So this too you have to keep in mind. Metal sodium is stored under kerosene. Non-metal phosphorus is stored in water. Because phosphorus is a reactive non-metal, when it exposed to air, it catches fire. So to prevent that, phosphorus is stored in water. Now coming to, if you see that reaction of metals with acid, and here here when metal reacts with acid, it forms particular this salt and hydrogen gas will be released. So the salt, when metal reacts with nitric acid, it forms nitrate salt. When it forms with sulfuric acid, it forms sulfate salt. When it reacts with hydrochloric acid, it forms chloride salt. So here if you see hydrochloric acid, no need to worry about that chemical equation. You should just know the word equation. Hydrochloric acid plus magnesium gives magnesium chloride. Magnesium chloride is a salt. What it liberates, hydrogen gas will come out. So when metal reacts with acid, also hydrogen gas will be released. And what about non-metals? Non-metals do not react with acid. This you should keep in mind. Non-metals do not react with acid. Then coming to base, when metals react with base, also it form hydrogen gas. But non-metals, reaction of non-metal with base are very complex. Don't write it as do not react with base. We do not, non-metals do not react with acid, but non-metals, reaction of non-metals with base is very complex. And whenever metals reacts with water, reacts with acid, hydrogen gas will be released. And how to find out confirmatory test, we have to confirm whether the gas comes out as hydrogen or not. uh, what is a confirmatory test for hydrogen? When we keep burning matchstick, it produces pop sound. So this indicates presence of hydrogen. Got it? Very, very important test for hydrogen. Hydrogen makes a squeaky pop sound when uh, we keep a burning matchstick near the mouth of the test tube, which liberates hydrogen, isn't it? So this, when it produces pop sound, this indicates the gas comes out is hydrogen. So test for hydrogen is keeping matchstick near the mouth of the test tube. If it produces pop sound, it shows uh, the released gas is hydrogen. So here also, by seeing this, what can you understand by seeing the figure without labeling? If it is asked, by seeing that pop sound, you should know, right, that is hydrogen gas. For children, so anyway with figure this, if it is given, you should know. So test of hydrogen is releasing pop sound. Okay, children, so that's all for this session. And next session, we will be continuing the same chapter, displacement reaction.